Hey everyone, it's T-Lore, and today I'm going to be talking about Bombardiers and Firepot specialists. So I'm going to start by looking at the stack of Bombardiers. Now what makes Bombardiers special is they have a cannon that goes in the front that can either be a flame strike cannon or a double range, extended range cannon. So for our purposes, we're going to pretend that we're doing the flame strike cannon to go with our Firepots in a minute. But we're going to look quickly at all the different Bombardiers here, and you can see they're all pretty expensive, except for the Dracona. And the Conquerant is really going to be my favorite one. So the cannons are all 2s, except for that front cannon's always a 3S on these. And the speed is S+S, which is pretty average, but compared to all the other Bombardiers, they all have L speed. So that's got the best speed. They all have 3 cargo, 3 masts. This ability, once per turn, is give you a chance of getting an extra action. So if we look at the Grand Vanquier, it's the same number of points, but it's only a 2-point ability, whereas this is a 5-point ability. And the speed is better, and the cannons are better. So there's really no reason to choose Grand Vanquier over the Conquerant. Now, we can look at Bombardier, which is the namesake for this ship, and it is a British ship, which has its own applications. The cannons are all long range, and you get to choose which mast is eliminated when you hit another ship. For a little bit cheaper, a decent ability, a little bit better cannons, there's certainly applications where you could choose Bombardier, but I would typically pay the extra 3 points for the Conquerant. And then finally you have Draconum, which the reason why it's so cheap is it has really average cannons, and you eliminate one of this ship's masts when you roll a 1 on any cannon roll. So that means that negative ability, if you fire that front cannon, it's going to jam on a 1, as well as you lose a mast. So this is definitely one of those ships that can blow itself up, and we have enough problems with rolling 1s as it is. We're going to stick with the Conquerant. So if we stick with Conquerant, we're going to go ahead and look at what crew and equipment we're going to put on it. We'll start with the Firepot Specialist. These came out in Pirates of the Revolution. They are limited to firing at S range, which doesn't really hurt us too much here, but it's something to think about if you're trying to use it with that long-range cannon. The other piece of this is, if you look on the back, it talks about when fire masts are added or removed. On a 6, you remove it, and on a 1 through 3, you get an additional one. So this gets out of hand really quickly, but you'll notice that in the Fire and Steel set, they changed the fire mast rules. So on a 5 or a 6 in Fire and Steel, you remove the fire mast, and on a 1 or a 2, you replace it with another fire mast. So you have a lot higher chance of removing it, and you have a lower chance of getting an additional one. So this really balanced out fire masts quite a bit. 1 fire mast was enough to destroy a ship most times, and 2 was definitely a death sentence. But now you have a pretty good chance of getting away. Even if you have multiple fire masts, it doesn't get out of hand as quickly. So the other piece of this is we've got this crew on there, and we don't have a chance of losing it due to our own abilities. There's no drawback to it other than the faction. So you have to match the faction. So we'll put the Firepot on there. Then the next piece that I would put on is the Exploding Shot. Now there's Fire Shot and Exploding Shot that are both 1 point, and I'll explain the difference here in a minute. But Exploding Shot's probably one of my favorite equipments. For only 1 point, you get a Fire Shot, as well as when you hit the enemy ship, you also eliminate a crew. So this can eliminate a mast and a crew with 1 shot for 1 point. Now the drawback is if you roll a 1, you remove the Exploding Shot and you eliminate a mast from this ship. Now that may seem pretty bad, but if we look at the Fire Shot, which is only going to add a fire mast, then we look at the drawback. You eliminate Fire Shot and replace one of your own masts with a fire mast. So the drawback is worse on Fire Shot, and the upside is better on the Exploding Shot. So if you had to choose one, always choose Exploding Shot over Fire Shot. They're the same cost, but Fire Shot does less and has a worse drawback. But we're going to go ahead and put all 3 of these on this ship. And then the last piece that I'm going to put on is Madame La Fontaine from Pirates of the Revolution. It's 0 point, limit ransom. I'm going to choose 1 French crew during setup and link it to that crew. So we're going to choose our French Firepot. And once per turn, I can re-roll any die roll made for this ship. So we've got 3 shots that if we roll a 1 on, something bad happens. So this re-roller lets us re-roll instead of making a separate shoot action like a cannoneer. So a cannoneer would say, you missed, you can make another try with that, but that doesn't work with these that are once per turn. However, we're re-rolling that specific die roll. So if we roll a 1, we're going to want to use this and immediately roll something different and hope that we don't get that 1 again to try and protect our equipment. So this is a good investment. The main reason why we have to go with this rather than a generic 3-point re-roller is we've got 3 cargo taken up here, and she's going to add an additional cargo by linking to our fire pot specialist. So what do you get out of this? Well, you get 4 shots with fire masts on every turn. So you have a 3 and 3 2s, and one of these, if you use it with your equipment, can even be shot at long range. So the equipment doesn't require you to be within S range. So we're going to use the long range cannon with one of our pieces of equipment and the short range ones with the fire pot specialist. So that way you can get 4 fire masts potentially on your opposing ships in one turn. So you can do a lot of damage in one shot. Is it worth it? Not really. If I had to choose, I'd probably put exploding shot on just about any other ship that's a lot cheaper, and you get a lot of effectiveness out of this. A ship with 4 fire masts on it is probably going to die anyway, but you could also do a lot more with 21 points than just getting 4 fire masts out there. I also wanted to cover fire masts and the rules change that happened. So fire masts changed in Pirates of Fire and Steel from the old rules where they would spread on 1 through 3 to the new rules where they only spread on 1 through 2. So I have a couple of graphs on the screen. You don't have to look at them too closely. The biggest thing to look at is the dark blue line is the odds of ending up with no fire masts on your ship at the end of the action. And the dark green line is the odds of ending up with 6 fire masts on your ship, which is enough to sink just about anything. And you can see with the old rules that you actually have a higher chance of ending up with 6 fire masts on your ship at the end of 6 actions than you do ending up with 0 fire masts at the end of 6 actions. So when they changed to the new rules, you have a lot higher chance of actually surviving just on your own and putting out the fire masts. Whereas the old rules, you had a pretty good chance of your ship just being killed. This is just applying 1 fire mast to the ship. So if you apply more than 1, it gets even worse. I hope that you found that helpful, and I think that the change to the fire mast rules really balanced out fire masts and made them not quite so overpowered.